by show of hands as to where they want to. I see a hand up of somebody who is not a member of the committee. This time, Mamumemani is only for members to engage, and in the responses, there might be people who are within the delegation from SABRATA, who through the leader of the delegation, Mr. Peter, can be allowed to maybe add on some things, as he already said. Now, I want to say the following, that Peter and the team, as my colleagues are raising their hands, which I'm seeing, maybe let me not start there. Following, they might cover these areas. If they do not, I will obviously, as my colleagues are raising their hands in a way of directing. The hands that I see, maybe is Honorable Nolu Chungu, who will be number 1. It will be Honorable Mabena, who will be number 2. It will be Honorable Ketamabala Sitole, who will be number 3. It will be Honorable Chris Hunsinga, who will be number 4. In that order, am I missing anybody of my colleagues? It will be Honorable Rama Dua after Honorable Hunsinga. Mr. Peter, I will ask again that you allow all the questions to be raised or comments made. You will make notes, and then you will lead the response thereafter, or allocate certain questions to certain members of your delegation. So I will give the opportunity to Honorable Nolu Chungu. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Let me first start by welcoming the presentation and say to the presenter that I feel for them, because transport is one of the main contributors to our economy. Had it not been for the taxi industry, people would not have been able to travel, because for the past 2 years, rail has been dysfunctional, and the main public transport that people had dependent on is the taxis. I know where the bill is currently, but I want to say the EFF supports that we listen to the operators, and as the committee, look at what is it that we can do to get that bill to accommodate them in the section 2141 that they are complaining about, because the issues raised here today are very important, and I agree with them that the big companies, you cannot allow the small companies to compete with such big companies who have been in the industry. Maybe when they signed this contract, the section 41, when they agreed to it then, they did not look at the long-term effects. And now that it is being implemented, it is only then that they realized what they had gotten themselves into. So all I'm saying is that the EFF supports them, and I'm pleading that we consider their presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Nolu Chungu. Honorable Mabena.
No, I'm towards the chairperson, I'm towards doing it to Lamtlanji committee, which is about Lamtlanji committee. Thank you to the presenters. I think I only have perhaps one issue. The issue of the bus operating company, it being given 12 years. I think the understanding of the model is that they take a collection of operators which operate within a specific route. Say, for instance, where there will be a rollout of the of the BRT. Like for instance, if you would take something like Pimville, take which operate there, like Onandoni and all of those, and then they put them together into a POC, which is then given a 12-year operating contract. But then the understanding is that within that first 12 years, government and the municipality plays an active role in terms of supporting you, in terms of capitalizing that POC, ensuring that they procure buses on your behalf, ensuring that government and the cities take a considerable amount of risk. And that risk is not really given onto the operators. I think now, if I was following correctly in terms of your presentation, the issue of contention here is the 12-year contract. You want to have a situation where you are supported beyond 12 years, that the 12-year contract needs to be reviewed, and that you be perhaps all the operators which were trapped into a POC being assisted beyond 12 years. Now, within that first 12 years, how many of the POCs? I see that you represent a collection of members. I see that the honorable, the president of the of Santaco, of NTA, and the top six are here. How many of those companies were able to break even in terms of revenue and also be in a position where they're self-sustainable? And if you were to take over after 12 years, will you be in a position without the different cities pulling out in terms of grants to be able to procure additional capacity in terms of buses? And then one last question, maybe this becomes an issue. I know that in terms of the feeder rules which are there, the understanding in the MOU which stands between the POC and the rules that are being taken over by BRT is that there is complete pull out of the operators. But what we see continuously is that on the trunk routes, on the feeder routes, you also have the very same operators from the associations still continuing to use those routes and completely almost competing with the BRT buses to an extent where the feeder routes which are within the BRT now become almost obsolete, and they become loss-making routes, and where you will find at any point given in time outside of the peak hours where a feeder bus would have 3 passengers, 2 passengers, and then we see a whole host of operators in terms of taxis which are operating on that line. But safe to say that we also are a bit sympathetic to operators, and that government has done really not much in terms of supporting the taxi industry over the past couple of years, and that we generally are sympathetic to your plight. But if maybe you can just take me through in those questions, maybe I can come back later and maybe make an addition as far as that's concerned. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mabena. Honorable Ketamabala Stole.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you to the presenters from the SABRATA. Chair, I'm trying to check because my understanding is that there was an agreement between the taxi industry and the government about the routes that they are going to use. And then the agreement that they are going to, the government is going to buy buses for the taxi industry. And then they are going to train the drivers for the taxi industry to drive those buses. And then now I'm trying to check how far with those agreement and how far with those alignment of the operations. And the other one, Chairperson, first of all, I want to thank them for raising these issues that they have actually forwarded to us. But I'm trying to check because now it seems that they are now in the crisis. So they want the portfolio to intervene. But I didn't hear, have they met with the minister? If they did, how far and what happened? Or did they met with the Department of Transport? If they did met, what happened? Because we have to intervene in informed information. I'm trying to check that Chairperson. I'm sympathizing with what is happening because most of the taxi industries are in a crisis now. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think I will come back if there's some needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I see they are looking for you very desperately there. Honorable Hunsinger, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to SABRATA in the person of Mr. Matebane and Mr. Lorema or Rena. Chairperson, I have one comment and 3 questions. Firstly, the comment is around the slide number 10, where it is the bullet point, the first bullet point alludes to championing the review of the 12-year contract. We must be mindful, and I think the presenter should also be mindful, that we are dealing with contracting with spheres of government, and that there's a particular constitutional principle which this committee has also had to deal with in a very embarrassing way, which we will be talking about in this session this afternoon in dealing with the report, and that is about the separation of powers and the delegated authority of the separation of powers to provide for a public BRT transport service. Secondly, but very much related to that, Section 41 sub 1 in the NLTA Act deals particularly with the core of this whole presentation, and that is with the element of that it is a negotiated contract, and it is expressed in the bill as such, that it is a negotiated contract. So certainly all the rules of the content thereof is confined within the framework of this negotiation, and it is between the parties of the contract. And I understand the frustration, because I also personally have dealt with this matter personally with Minister Mbalula. And that is about how much I want to say about that at this point. But I certainly share in the frustration which has been expressed here, particularly around this. And this committee is also well aware of my frustration in the content of the NLTA, in that I have mentioned numerous times that there are a lot more to deal with in the NLTA as what we have done till now. My questions, Chairperson, therefore, is one of clarity, firstly, on your presentations of slide 16, where, and I'm quoting more or less what you've said, is that a BRT has failed to deliver a subsidy-free public transport system in a record time. What do you mean with that? And can you just expand on that statement that you made? BRT has failed to deliver a subsidy-free public transport system. My second question is around the NLTA, and the NLTA has been submitted to Parliament and this committee in particular to do a revision with amendments from April 2016. And we will deal with the final report this afternoon in plenary, which is 6 years later. Did you make any submissions from SABRATA to the process and the processing and considerations of the NLTA? My third question, Chairperson, is around what is your expectation? You are talking of and you are requesting intervention. What is it specifically that you feel this committee can do in order to assist you? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Hunsinga. Honorable Ramadwa.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, for the opportunity that you have given me. Mine is questions for clarity. And I would also like to appreciate the presentation. My first question is about the presenters indicated that this BRT, it was done because there was a need of transformation. So I want to check if they have made what are their observation for these 12 years, and how did they perform, whether they have achieved transformation or not, and what needs to be improved. Because we cannot take decisions before we know what has happened and what needs to be done going forward, because we still need a transformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ramadwa. Mr. Peter, that is the questions, comments, observations of the honorable members of the committee. And as I indicated, you are at liberty to allocate individual members if you think they can answer certain questions. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair. And we appreciate the question from the members. Chair, our members will also indicate whenever they want to amplify my responses. Chair, I will start with the last question in terms of transformation. Chair, when the BRT was introduced to us as taxi people, under the leadership of Minister Ndadekade, one of the promises that were made to us, it was that, one, it was a transformation agenda to empower us. Two, we are not going to be worse off. However, during the implementation of the BRT, where it's been implemented at the level of the municipality, where we saw that the direction is not what was intended to, we engaged the municipality several times, where they are breaching the contract as they like, where they've decided not to implement according to the contract. And some of us, we have taken the municipalities to court, and we have won those arbitrations. And some of the municipalities, even when the contract says the arbitration award becomes the final arbiter, they still want to review, whereas the contract does not allow them. What it means, Chair, we are facing a challenge where the municipalities, they really not assist this transformation agenda. They really not assist in terms of empowering us. The next question, Chair, of us engaging the minister. Chair, we are frustrated where we are because we thought by now we'll have so many engagements with the minister in terms of this matter. However, we try our level best to set up meetings where some of the meetings were cancelled on the 11th hour. And still up to date, the minister didn't have an opportunity to meet with us. That is where we stand with regard to the national minister. And in September this year, where there was a tender briefing of Piotrans, that is the first victims of this legislation, through the Provincial Minister of Transport, Mtate Mabulo, we managed to have a meeting with NTOT directors, your DGs, your DGs at the offices of Tata Mabulo, where we requested them as a custodian of transport in our country that we are facing a challenge of the city of Johannesburg that have ignored everything that was raised on the engagement with Piotrans to put this project on the tender. And in that meeting, they have agreed that they will set up a meeting with us together with COJ, and also they don't have a jurisdiction over the municipalities in terms of stopping them from implementing this horrible section. And up to date, Chair, we are still waiting for that meeting. And we have been asking them, when can we have this meeting so that we are able to explain ourselves in terms of where we are, what are we envisaging after the 31st of January 2023. Another thing, Chair, that is lacking in terms of the implementation of the PRT, there is no national framework in terms of the PRT. In Cape Town, they are using their own methodologies, their own format to negotiate and implement the PRT. In Johannesburg, they are using their own format to implement the PRT. Equally so in Tswana, in George, in PE, and so on. Therefore, there is no uniformity at all. Now it creates a problem. For example, in some of the cities where the PRT is being implemented, the buses are being bought by government. But in the case of Johannesburg, Piotrans, they bought the buses. On the 11th year of their revenue, that is where they finish paying those buses. Now, on the 12 years, when they are trying to enjoy the fruit of this promise, this enjoyment has been cut by this section. Therefore, there is no national framework in terms of the implementation of the PRT. And secondly, the issue of implementing the PRT in terms of the municipalities, as I've mentioned, they are breaking the law like nobody's business. One of the issues between Piotrans and the city of Johannesburg, it was a value chain framework where Piotrans was going to be responsible for all the value chains in terms of adding value to their revenue. And all of those things, they were taken away from them. When they were trying to negotiate to say, but the contract says, they were totally ignored. Therefore, Chair and the committee members, the PRT benefits are not given to those that were intended to improve their lives. People that have benefited out of the PRT in South Africa are the consultants who introduced the PRT to us as a taxi industry, are the infrastructure service providers who have built the PRT everywhere, even before the agreement with us and the taxi industry has been concluded. And some of them today are multimillionaires at the expense of our people. Therefore, Chair, in terms of implementing the PRT, us as the beneficiaries, as it was said, we are in a horrible state. And also, Chair, with regard to the question of the feeder buses, for example, here in the Western Cape, where I'm in charge. Some of the bus companies, some of the taxi industry, they didn't submit their permits because they were not in favor of the BRT. However, if you look on the peak hours, in the morning and in the afternoon, we don't have enough buses to cater for our people because we've got few buses. We've got overloading that also hamper the progress of those BRTs. For example, the overloading, I question the city of Cape Town. Why the BRT buses are not being stopped by the traffic when there's an overloading? It is because they work on their advantage, because whether the bus is full or it's empty, they are still going to pay us the same amount of money. And we are not even in control of the fares. Therefore, with regard to the feeder buses and the taxis and so on, there's still enough room for both the taxi industry to operate and also the BRT to operate. However, we need to make sure that we deal also with the issue of the double tipping. For example, here in the city of Cape Town, we've got Golden Arrow here who's having plus minus 170 years, who are part of the BRT. We are part of the BRT. They own 25% of the BRT. However, they are not affected. Nothing was taken away from them. They never lost any permits. They never lost any passes. But us, when we have to enter in the BRT, you have to surrender your permit and you have to surrender your vehicle. However, those former traditional bus companies, they are still getting subsidy from government and they are still benefiting from the small cake of the BRT that is meant to uplift our lives. And we view that as a double tipping in terms of the government language and as an unfair competition. Even now, when you look on the bidders, they were in Soweto to bid for the pilot trans contract. It's unfair. It's unfair, Chair. Lastly, from my side, Chair, I will give the other members to add. We have tried even to engage with the city of Johannesburg so that we highlight even the impact of COVID-19. Because if, for example, there was a budget and the revenue anticipated within the 12 years, that will be reached to a point where we'll not need money after the 12 years. But at least even from the municipality level, they were supposed to be considerate of the COVID-19. They were supposed to be considerate of the COVID-19 impact that almost lasted for 2.5 years. Therefore, for them to jump, waiting for the 12-year contract to expire so that they can put that on tender, it raises concerns on our side. It raises concern on our side. Therefore, Chair, all we are looking for, because we know that the solution cannot be taken today, it cannot be taken tomorrow. It is a process because we are dealing with the legislation here. All we are saying is that the national government, that is, they are empowered to do that, is to be able to put a moratorium in terms of this tender process. As one of the members has mentioned that initially it was a negotiated contract. The reason why our members are part of this, because it was negotiated. And secondly, government did not explain thoroughly when this thing started that after 12 years, we are going to put you on tender. And lastly, Chair, we went to Boca, we went to Brazil. None of them, none of those companies that we learn from them in terms of the BRT, they've got a lifespan of 12 years. They've got 25 years and 30 years. We don't understand why in South Africa, that we all know where we come from, we've got a limited of 12 years. And Chair, I think one of the things that we are not going to transform this country, it is because we allow people to navigate a transformation agenda for us who are not the champion of transformation. Thank you, Chair.
The passion on this matter, Mr. Peter, is very visible and palpable in your comments. You just opened it up too much, and it's very dangerous if you say any of your members can comment. I would really prefer if you are specific to say so-and-so comment on this area.
Okay.
Because if you allow Dade Pete Matangu to speak, he won't stop.
Okay, Chair, I will give the Chair of Biotrans, Mamuno Mazocho, to speak. And after her, it will be Mr. Matebane and Mr. Mabe. And then I think we'll be able to close it.
Okay, that's better, much better. I will appeal with those. I understand the passion, we understand the sensitivity and how you are feeling about this. Where possible, let's not repeat what Mr. Peter has already said. Add the things that you think he did not mention that didn't cover you. Mamuno Mazocho.
Thanks very much, Honorable Chair. And I must also thank the honorable members for allowing us to come and make this presentation before you. The points that I'm going to raise are just few points, not the repetition, of course. There was a question from one of the honorable members asking whether have we delivered. You know, in terms of delivery, you know, we are the best. I'm the chairperson of Biotrans, that is in city. We are dealing with City of Johannesburg. In terms of delivery, you know, delivering to our communities, we are the best. You know, PADCO, you know, we beat PADCO. I don't want to lie about that. That is number one. And then number two, chairperson, you know, as Biotrans, you know, where we started negotiating with the government, I think we started in 2007, long before the enactment of the NLTA. So therefore, our contract is a contract of a special kind, because the law, you do not implement the law retrospectively. So those are some of the issues that we try to raise with the City of Johannesburg. And number three, as Mr. Peter has indicated, you know, when it comes to value chain, we were robbed as Biotrans of our value chain. And because one, when we started this particular project, we started in 2009 in preparation for 2010 World Cup. So it was a rush project. And we had to make, you know, everyone to smile, even those who came to South Africa, you know, seeing those beautiful buses that we have paid actually, because as Biotrans, we paid our buses. It was not a grant from the government. So there are those outstanding issues that are in BOCA, which is a contract between ourselves and government, that were not fulfilled, that we've asked the City of Johannesburg to sit down in a round table so that we can conclude on those particular matters. So okay, those are just the few things that I want to raise, and I don't want to repeat to what Mr. Peter said. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Sis Nomazocho.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, committee members, for the comments. And just to highlight on a few items, to the point of the clarity sought on the subsidy-free, delivering on subsidy-free transport system. I think that was the intended purpose of the BRTs when they were implemented, to the extent that they need to be sustainable to a point where government would not need to subsidize them into the future. And the issue then became, in terms of once these are implemented, the delays in the implementation process, the shortchanging with regards to the value chain, and the changes that are taking place within the process have made it impossible for some of these BRTs to be subsidy-free into the future. And that is what they intended to be. And I would hope that this government will still want to see them being subsidy-free. As we know, the pace of government is getting smaller and smaller, and we cannot be expecting government to be funding more and more. However, working together, putting plans in place will deliver and make sure that these projects like this do not become government funded for their lifetime. So the main issues were lack of support, delays in implementation, and just to also answer the issue on the NLTA presentations, when the act was being amended, SABRATA was not yet formed. It was only formed in 2020. However, as individual BRTs, we did make presentations. I made presentations on behalf of Tshwane Rapid Transit, which is operating the REN system, together with our team. And we also went to the Competition Commission as individual bus operators at that point. And it was only during 2020 that SABRATA was formally formed. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Last but not least, as indicated, Mr. Peter Mabe. But I will insist on that Deputy Mahlangu saying something. I miss his voice. Mr. Mabe, are you ready to contribute as indicated by Mr. Peter?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson, and to the committee. Mine just to stress one particular issue that the Chairperson, that Peter raised, is that you know, especially in Johannesburg, especially with this one, we felt as Biotrans and as SABRATA that the city of Johannesburg as an implementing agency of this national program that was established by the government. We felt it's intransigent for interacting with us. Like one of the members asked whether did we discuss this, Ramadwa, whether did we interact with the city of Johannesburg. Letters were written, submissions were written, and even against Chairperson and the committee. One of the most crucial ones, it is clearly stated in the contract that this advert, it must be done within 6 months prior to this. And that was not done. NGOT tried at all times to engage with the city of Johannesburg. But we felt that the city of Johannesburg did absolutely nothing. And for the committee's question of whether did we achieve anything in this whole process, Chairperson and the committee, the people that surrendered their permits and their vehicles, I can bluntly say they are worse off as we speak. They are worse off as we speak. The national framework for BRT, Chair, I think it's high time that the portfolio committee concentrate on that, because the pilot transfers is named pioneers of this whole project. They were not but given lump sums. Other BOCs that are there, they were given lump sums and buses were bought for them. And this one, absolutely nothing. So our humble plea to the committee, as an oversight of this whole program, we take it that way. That is it possible that this tender that was advertised and it was closed last week, that can it be put on hold? Lastly, the country was under the National Disaster Management Act, and of which everything came to a standstill. We wanted to find out from the department that the 2.5 years that we are under a National Disaster Management Act, also included because things were not normal. Our humble plea, Chair, is that can the portfolio committee help us, especially for those old ladies? You must bear in mind, those are old ladies and old timers that we're telling them now to go and start going to outside. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Masam, I see that Etsebe is not in the meeting. He might have had to leave.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and the whole House. Thank you so much. I have been missing this face for some time, but found today we are lucky to see this face. Chairperson and the House, thank you so much for allowing us just to have a word. I'll take less than a minute. What we are saying is that the implementation of BRT in any form should not be seen as the disposition, but rather the empowerment. As said by the then Minister, Mr. Jeff Radebe, and we've got documents to that regard. One example, the taxi industry has been supportive of the initiative since day one, up to today. One example is in Tshwane, where the operation, or maybe let me put it this way, BRT in any form will not be the same. They are not implemented the same. The operation is different. I hear to Babu Mapen al-Rebele, but I did not understand what he was saying. We don't want the government to fund us or to help us for 12 years. For example, in Tshwane, there's a cost recovery contract, which was aimed at 3 years. And the taxi industry was ready then. But today, it's still cost recovery at the year number 8. And the bridge, 100% on the city side, on municipality. So we are saying or pleading to the portfolio committee to first understand our presentation. Then they will also apply their mind to maybe advise and help us going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ndade Mahlangu. Good seeing you again. You should not expose certain things because we'll need to explain. I'm a public rep. I need to declare in Parliament where I know you from. You know, I just was giving you a space to talk, not to expose that you know my face. But that's on a lighter note. I see Meramadwa, your hand is up. I don't know if it's a legacy hand. Or did you have something burning to say?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. There is something that I want to say. It's not a legacy hand. Chairperson, okay. I would like to add on what my colleague, Honorable Hunsinger, had said. My understanding is that the bill, the report on the revived bill was adopted in 2020, and the bill was sent to President for assent in 2020 and returned to Parliament in 2021 to address the reservation around the constitutionality of Clause 7 only. No other amendment can be considered. This is in terms of joint rules. The committee amendments were confined to Clause 7. That's my understanding, Chairperson. It's what I wanted just to raise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Ramadwa. Appreciated. You may lower your hand, please. I think Mr. Peter, leader of delegation, and the whole delegation, my colleagues have acknowledged and appreciated your presentation. And I think I echo their sentiments in acknowledging your presentation and raising this. The passion, as I said, and the closeness to this into your hearts is really, really visible. Not only physically, but even in your voices, we can hear it. And the colleagues have also said, we really sympathize and empathize with the plight that you find yourselves in. And I think the main reason for that is what many of you, Mr. Peter, have highlighted, the lack of a national framework, which what is done in George will be done in Gqeberha and will be done in eThekwini and so forth. That is what you're saying. However, the different spheres of government and the separation of powers is something that particularly us as parliamentarians have to guard jealously. And that is what resulted in what my colleagues were mentioning now, which will be presenting in the House this afternoon. But what I do like is that you, Dade Peter and Dade Mahlangu, lately do say that you don't expect an answer today or a resolution today, but you thought you needed to raise this matter. And I think we appreciate that, because it also, having listened to you, gives us an opportunity to reflect, notwithstanding whatever limitations we might have, but at least we cannot close our ears from your plight that you have presented to us. So as we engage as a committee, we will then take a decision as to how best do we respond. It might form different ways. Do we ask the department to engage with yourselves further? Because you did allude to the fact that there was an engagement with the department. However, it didn't have a follow-up. And I'm not speaking for the department, but I can assume that it can be difficult to engage people who are affected in the middle of a process of procurement. And yet on your side, that procurement is what exactly is causing this eagerness to talk to somebody. And as you said, to see if there could be a moratorium and so forth. We are also very cautious of the fact that as Parliament, as public officials, we do not want to find ourselves entangled in issues of procurement. We do not find ourselves in contravention of the Constitution, where we have to make sure that there is this separation that happens there. But as I said, your understanding that we need to apply our minds, we need to see what are the possible interventions, if any, that we can make. And as you said, as legislators, ours is to look at legislation, which colleagues have already said it has gone for quite a long time. And but be assured that what you have said and what you have presented to us is not going to be filed. It is not going to go to file 13. We will certainly engage with it as a committee so that as people who have come to us, we can be able to respond in a proper way as to your submission, as to what the view of the committee is. I do, however, want to say that it is unfortunate. I'm sure it was in the spur of the moment and the passion that one colleague highlighted a political party in support of what you are presenting. We always try by all means, despite all our political parties' backgrounds, to present a committee's view when we engage with people like yourselves. And as I say, we will engage as a committee. We will get to know who on us supports, who doesn't support. But at the end of the day, we want to come up and speak to you as a committee responsible for transport, not as individual political parties within this committee. We are certainly going to engage with this matter. We have heard you, we have heard your cry, and obviously we need to find a way of also hearing other sides on what their view is, you know, because Section 41 itself could be subject to interpretation in different ways. However, we have our people on the platform now, especially our advisors. They will advise us, and we will be able to respond to yourselves in a much more structured and proper way. The colleagues were just raising their preliminary questions and observations on what has been presented here. And we will try at all means not to find ourselves, the issue of Biotrans seems to be very burning, and it's at the heart of this. However, we wouldn't want to look at Biotrans in exception to Arieng, to Go George and others. We would like to look at it in the broader scheme of things. So, but we do implore you, lastly, Ndate Peter, that continue knocking on the department's door. Despite that, maybe they have not engaged, they might give you reasons why. But from our side, we will do our job, which is to meet, consider what you have put before us, and then be able to say, as a committee, what is it that we can do? But once more, I do appreciate what you have done. But let me give you your last point of parting shot, Ndate Peter. If there's any parting short message you'd like to leave with us before we bring this portion of the meeting to a conclusion.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, my only thing that I want to say is that I want the members of Parliament to consider Section 36 of the Constitution with regard to this legislation. And also I want them to consider Chapter 2 of our human rights. Both of them are talking about the limitation of the rights of human. That is where we are finding ourselves here. Thank you very much, Chair.
Mr. Peter, thank you very much. As I said, we have heard you very well. Thank you to you personally and to your whole delegation of SABRATA. We appreciate the time that you have taken. All the leadership you had recognized at the beginning of the meeting. Some I noticed that Etsebe might have had to leave. Do extend our appreciation to all of them for the time and the effort. To put up a presentation and come here needs effort and time. We truly appreciate it. Let it not be a wasted time and wasted opportunity. We will apply our minds, and through our normal structures, we will certainly be engaging with yourselves. Once more, thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate it. You are more than welcome to leave the meeting as you so wish. Thank you once more.
Thank you very much.
All right, colleagues, going back to our agenda, we have a set of minutes that are before us. I just need to make sure that I get to the right ones. All right. We have one set of minutes that we did not, which was on the 18th, which was the process of the BRRR. Am I correct, Ms. Carlson?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you very much, colleagues. The meeting of the 18th is presented before us for your consideration. I present the minutes of the 18th of October where we looked at the BRRR for your consideration, colleagues. Honorable McDonald.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I move for the adoption of the minutes, Chairperson, as presented. And Chairperson, without deepening any crisis, I would like to just ask for an opportunity to say something after this item. Thank you, please, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable McDonald. Honorable Ramadwa.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I raise my hand to second the move by Honorable McDonald. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. The meeting minutes of the 18th of October have been duly adopted by this meeting. Thank you very much. Honorable McDonald, can I hear you?
Thank you, Chairperson.
Matter of national importance, I guess.
It's a matter of real importance, Chairperson. I just wanted to, Chairperson, I don't want to abuse you, especially at this late stage of the meeting, Chairperson, but I've been reading some comments on social media and around regarding a Russian yacht that's on its way to Cape Town, that some cities have now asked permission that the yacht must not be allowed to dock in the ports of South Africa, and particularly Cape Town. Chairperson, I just want to refer to the port's regulators' functions. It says the main functions of the port regulator is to exercise economic regulation of the port system in line with government strategic objectives. And I would like to remind the committee about our BRICS, government strategic connection of BRICS. And then, which is the most important part here, Chairperson, to promote equity of access to ports and to facilitate and service provided in ports. And equity is a very nice word, Chairperson, because it actually in law means the quality of being fair and impartial. In other words, basically fairness in treating people and governments across the board. South Africa does not have sanctions against Russia, and we are not part of the Western cabal with their sanctions against Russia. So, Chairperson, I think we need to be wary that we do not sanction something like that as a portfolio committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much for making my life difficult, Honorable McDonald. Honorable Hunsinger.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I would like to know whether we are going to deal with the presentations and the road forward action steps in this meeting, since you haven't given any indication before the time, and I take it, I anticipated that you would rather want to speak to the committee at your prerogative and good judgment. So just a question around that. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Thank you. You read my mind. I wanted to hear out Honorable McDonald. Then we'll dispose of that. Then I'll come back to what you are saying. It's what I had in my mind. But I see Honorable Mabena also, his hand is up here. Let me be fair and give you an opportunity, Honorable Mabena.
Oh, thank you very much, Chairperson. By being fair, we are on the right path and on the right trajectory. Your chairpersonship is very safe. Chair, I think there's one issue which I think still is a move. I'm not sure if we're going to deal with that when we deal with the committee program. We were supposed to have AXA to come and and give us some sort of feedback in terms of that vegetation contract. And I think it has an issue that has been standing over. I'm not sure if there's any feedback, because I think from our physical meeting that we had in Cape Town, there was some sort of an informal type of agreement that following your meeting with staff members, I think of which somehow you also backed out of that concession, and you said your meeting was just purely administrative and routine. So I think having you said that, then hence I'm coming in now to just try and check if maybe when can we invite them so that they can assist us there. And I think Honorable McDonald is making a huge mistake attributing his comments to that of the portfolio committee. And just to assist him, that this portfolio committee is led by a chairperson, and any decision that this committee has to take, it will be articulated through the chairperson. And some comments by members are just comments by members, and it's okay. Members can comment, and there's no crisis. But his attributes can never be attributed to this portfolio committee, because we're led very well. There's no crisis in terms of leadership. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, colleagues. Okay, I think let's start with the special request of Honorable McDonald on the news media and the alleged yacht that's on its way to dock in Cape Town. I think we note the comments, and we will leave it to international relations to deal with that. And I think that is where it is more relevant. But I think the comments and the statement made are noted, and we will leave it at that. Should anything really require the department, I think the department itself and its entities are in capable hands. They will be able to deal with it appropriately, like many other issues they've done. Now, I want to ask the secretary to get ready. After I make these comments, I would like to get feedback on how far we are in terms of the preparation for the public hearings. And if you could remind us also and the members of the next critical meetings of the committee in line with our current program of the committee. So if you could just get those ready so that I don't ambush you on that one. Okay, colleagues, on this one of what we've just received today, I thought that as a committee, we need to reflect on them. However, I do not think that it will be fair to all committee members to discuss now and have a position of what we take forward. So I would like us to put it in our, as close as possible, agenda to discuss these two matters as feedback. In fact, any interaction we have with outside people that has come to the committee, I would like us to take a position as a committee where the matter has been brought here so that we can either respond to them properly, which we should, because they have taken the time, the effort to speak to us, and I think it will just be courteous of us and responsible to give them the necessary response in whatever matter they would have brought. These two presentations of today, for me, fall exactly in line with exactly what I've said. The second one, being the legislative one, might be a bit tricky, and it might need us to apply our minds. Do we agree, firstly, without influencing your thoughts? But those are the discussions. Do we agree that indeed Section 41 of the NLTA is in the way it has been presented? Or do we think it actually does protect the industry in the way it was intended? Those are just my thoughts. But these are the things I would like us as a committee to engage on, reach at least a consensus, and then take a view of what direction do we take, and we respond accordingly to those people who would have written to us or presented themselves like they did today. The people take time, it's money, it's effort to do what they do. So I really would want us to make sure that nobody ever feels like they were given a cold shoulder by us, or they were not treated importantly, or we thought they were wasting our time. At all times, I think we should guard against that, colleagues. And on the road accident fund, again, the same approach. It was very informative, but again, if I may put this very loosely, from one side, you know, we've got content advisors and researchers with us who would like to hear their views and to really empower us in terms of these comments that are there in line with the Road Accident Fund Act. As a committee, we might recall, colleagues, we have contemplated before looking at amending the the Road Accident Fund Act in its current form. There have been debates there, but I think it is suffice to say we have received that from APRAV, and let's apply our minds and let's try and find time in this tight schedule of our committee to reflect on these and be able to agree to take a position. We might as well be wanting to take it to our own caucuses to discuss this matter and be able to come back with a proper mandate. So this is how I would like to propose, colleagues, that we take these two presentations we received today as a way forward. Lastly, the issue of AXA, and I think many other issues, but AXA becomes on the top of the agenda as we speak now, is something that I think we had already agreed that we would have engaged them when they came to present their annual report, but due to time limitations, although they were ready, we had to shelve that portion of their presentation. So in the same way, we did agree that we need to see them. So the Secretariat will have to look at our program and find a place where we are going to see AXA to respond to the issues that were raised to us or through us. Also, colleagues, we have had the issue of those entities, including RAF, that we did not see. There has been a strong lobby and calls from colleagues to say we need to see RAF once they've submitted what is due. We need to see the DLCA or the department stroke DLCA on what we have not. And obviously we will hear the state of readiness through the PLO of those. And I think there is RTIA, if I'm correct. And so let us not lose sight of them and be able to squeeze them in. So colleagues, I will leave it there in my summary before we get to the Secretariat, and I invite your comments, concurrence on what I've just said. Honorable Hunsinger.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, allow me firstly to appreciate what just happened in that despite the very full program, which is really loaded with the legislation, that we carefully considered and did see entities and concerned stakeholders. And that this indeed is an extension of our oversight, although it didn't mean visiting a particular area or a particular service delivery. It engaged properly and it brought us into contact with people that really have issues that would necessitate our consideration. So I really think it was a good thing. and that we had the opportunity then to extend our oversight in this manner. Chairperson, firstly, with regards to the APRAV presentation and the Road Accident Fund, two overarching impressions dominate in my impressions. The first one was the 500 million per month saving. That immediately resonates given the current financial bleeding with the Road Accident Fund, but then also with the content which alluded to some changes to the Road Accident Fund Act that could improve the operations, but that there are also structural issues that need attention, in that some of the points, some of the elements, some of the functioning is currently captured within the regulatory framework, which is then suggested to be included under the legislative framework. All of these elements, including the very ambitious statement of a 500 million rand saving per month, should be actuarially backed. And I'm quite confident from the presentation that everything is very well researched. I therefore, Chairperson, propose that we approach APRAV and request for all information which is available, including the emissions and changes to be considered, the proposals, and all the researched facts, but particularly the technical points of suggested considerations to changes of what possibly can become a Road Accident Fund Amendment Act, that this should be sent to our content researchers of this committee, and that we then request our content researchers to report to us as the committee, and that the term of reference for this should outline in a presentation information of possible amendments to the Road Accident Fund Act that would possibly result in the savings mentioned and the improved operations, but that we invite them for material, for content, for documents that would support the statements, and that this be sent to our content researchers, and that they be given a time frame to then prepare a report for the portfolio committee, so that we can have an informed decision, so as to then weigh off what is doable and what is not doable. Chairperson, if I could go over to SABRATA, if you will allow me. Can I proceed on that one, Chairperson?
Yes, Honorable Hunsinger, you had started, although I had said, let's go back and look at these things. And I was hoping that your input will be an informed one, having digested all the presentations. But please do go ahead on this one. You had already started.
The Chairperson, I always believe that digestion should be on the basis of a thorough compilation of facts. And I do have trust in our researchers. And I think if we can be equipped, because a lot of the presentation content was confined within the time limit of 30 minutes, to both presenters. And I think if we then give them opportunity to furnish us with substantive and comprehensive content, that it could then really lead to something more substantive. So I wouldn't want to take up anybody's time, which would not lead for us to take a proper decision. But the Road Accident Fund is really in a state of financial bleeding, and with all due respect to the team that are trying their best to sort this out, I think we need to take these suggestions serious. Chairperson, around SABRATA, I wasn't aware of the organization, and it supported that impression by the fact that they were formed in 2020. It was valuable to get their insight, but rather embarrassing. Embarrassing simply because, again, it was underscored that there were content that we didn't look at and didn't properly deal with, simply because there was a decision to rush this bill towards acceptance and completion, yet again, similar to the way that it happened in 2009 because of the Soccer World Cup. So, Chairperson, it's a frustrating one, because we could have dealt with this. We could have looked at this more properly and in a better way. And the dilemma expressed by SABRATA is a known one. Direction around this one is really difficult. I think it is also valuable to express to SABRATA what the final decisions were, because that is not publicly known yet. It is also subject to the President's final signature, and I think it would be valuable for SABRATA to then take note of what development has undergone with the NLTA up to the point where today we will approve or not on the report. But then definitely that the next phase is for the President to sign off the NLTA amendment bill or not, but that there has been changes to the NLTA through this portfolio committee's considerations and workings, and the input from public participation. But I think an update on the NLTA, subject to that the President still has to sign it off, would be valuable to SABRATA. It is also worth considering, what body SABRATA is and what they represent and who they really represent. But we should possibly take it on the basis of what they say, who they represent. But I think it's also valuable then for them to look at the fact that they are in a position to renegotiate contracts, and that they are a party to the contract, and that these legal terms should also be understood. Chairperson, that is my input and my what I would suggest we consider. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Onsinga. Honorable Sitola, you had your hand up. I don't know if you have been kicked out, as we normally hear the language here, kicked out, or it was a mistake. I think you are not in, you are here, but I don't know, was it a mistake, Honorable Sitola?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. No, Honorable Chairperson, it was not a mistake.
Okay.
Only Honorable Chairperson, my confusion and my concern is that the submission by SABRA, actually it is an eye-opener to us today, because it seems that they were not properly considered before we are now at that point of today where we are going to debate the bill. So now I was trying to check, and another thing that is worrying me, Chairperson, is that if the minister, the department, they don't engage, they don't take care of the concern that was raised by this organization, although it is a newly formed organization. But I'm trying to check, Chairperson, that there is no way that we can actually engage the department and engage the minister and find out what actually expired and what happened, because, and then we can respond according to what the information and what informed us to respond. I think that one, Chairperson, was the one that is worrying me. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Okay, colleagues. No, there's nothing to worry about. We are doing our job as public reps and as a portfolio committee to give an audience to people who are either aggrieved, concerned, or have got inputs to enrich our work. And in any given point in time, colleagues, when something is presented, there is something that could be on the other side, and we must always be mindful of that. We have not asked the department to give us what engagement have they had us with SABRATA, because SABRATA came to see us, not the department. And I think it would be unfair of us to say the department or the ministry has not given them an ear, because we don't know what happened. But the matter is before us, colleagues. Let us apply our minds. I do accept the submission that let the researchers get as much information on both sides, RAF and so forth, so that we can be able to also hear on the other side. And I don't want to take anybody as bona fides as if I'm suspicious of them, but it could be very, very proper of us to hear the Road Accident Fund, what their view is, if they've met these and so forth. But we need to make our own position as the portfolio committee on this matter. So I don't want us to hence I said earlier, we have received what we have received. Let's apply our minds. But the request that I'm inclined to accept is that whatever information can be arrived at, or rather received and processed within our committee, I don't see any harm in that, so that when we come back, these issues might require in other parties to go back and have their caucuses endorse a position or the other one. I don't want us to sit here and begin to walk ahead of ourselves. So going forward, colleagues, let's apply our minds to what has been presented. The support team, researcher, and through the secretariat will request additional information that can be packaged and given to us as a committee. And I'm not sure whether 2 weeks from now would be too much, but let's get feedback from the researchers 2 weeks time where we are. And if there's any challenge, we will then raise it at the time. So let's leave it there, colleagues. We will continue to engage with the ministry, the department and its entities, and seek any further information as it relates to these two matters, so that we are able to take an informed decision. I'm mindful that there might be people who need to catch buses from villages to the house, so we need to give them enough time. Can I invite the secretariat, as I highlighted earlier, to just give us a feedback or update on those issues?
Chair.
Yes,
Chair.
Yes, Comrade Chabango, I didn't see you.
Yes, Chair. Let me start first by apologizing for arriving late. I had a very serious network problem where I am. I've heard what you have said. I also heard what member Usinga had said, and I also align myself with whatever you have agreed upon. Let us satisfy ourselves, because we are representing the people here. And I think you are right when you say a week or 2 weeks will be enough for them to bring back what is due to us. With that note, I thank you, my chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Makosini. Yes, are you ready, Ms. Carroll, sir?
Mr. Mangu, my report is going to be very, very short. With the help of Mrs. Mashlati, we've completed the application for the public hearing, and that application has to go to the House Chairperson and the Chief Whip. Because of the cost involved of the public hearings, we had to provide a very comprehensive costing. So all those were the quotes. It is now with the manager, and he has to go through everything just to verify our figures. He should be done with that today, and then I will forward it to you also to look through it, because there are information that we needed to complete for our share regarding the committee's current program, current legislation before the delegation, and so forth. So once the manager has verified the figures, gone through everything, write his comment, I will share it with you so that we hopefully can send this application to House Chair by mid-morning tomorrow, if you are okay with the content thereof.
All right. That's okay. But you have taken note of the issue of AXA, the RAF, and other entities that together you look at that and advise accordingly.
Yes, and I'm happy that the members this morning agreed to bring forward the public hearings on the marine pollution bill, because that essentially opens up a Tuesday for other committee business. The issue, though, Acting Chair, is I checked up till yesterday and there's no tabling of those reports. So we will need to wait for that before we can schedule those meetings. I was hoping it could be this week so that that meeting can be scheduled for at least the 15th of November. But there is now space on the program. I will discuss that with you after this meeting, and then draft the possible agenda items for those days.
All right, that is fine. As we have said, I want to reiterate, the committee's preference is to go physical. Where practically possible, we need to apply on time for the limited venues. And as we prepare for the last quarter of the year's program, we would like you to put that into consideration so that members can plan properly, those who need to travel and so forth. It would really assist. So, but having said that, colleagues, I think we have had a very fruitful meeting, and look forward to seeing those that will see in the House this afternoon. Those will be rejecting anything or abstaining, let me know now so that I can be prepared. That was on a lighter note. Can I bring the meeting to a close, Ms. Carroll? Say any announcement, anything I might have missed?
No, there's nothing, Chair, except we need to just talk after the meeting.
No, that's fine. That's fine. All right, colleagues, thank you very much. See you at 2 o'clock. The meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.
Long live.